Happy Friday. Today is April 17th. So your work for today, you're going to start with 30 minutes of reading. So for that reading time, you need to do this story. It's called Lost on the River. Okay, so you can read this story. The characters are, we have Carla, an alligator, and a crane. Okay, so that's the kind of bird that this is. It's called a crane, and you will see that word in the story. So I want you, when you're reading, I want you to think about what would make sense. So if you get to a word that you don't know, don't just guess and say any word. I want you to think about, does this word make sense? Okay, think about if it fits in the story, if it makes sense in the sentence, if it looks right. Okay, use your skills that you learned at school to help you read this. Okay, there's some tricky words in here. So after you read, you're going to fill out this graphic organizer over here. So you can write problems that you found in the story and then solutions that you saw in the story. So what were the problems in the story? What happened that was challenging for Carla, or what happened to Carla in the story? What problems did she face? And then the solutions. How did she solve that problem? How was that problem fixed? Okay? So that's what you're going to do. And then over here, you can write about a different solution that maybe it didn't talk about in this story, but that you can think of that could help Carla solve her problem. So that's what you're going to do after you read. Okay, for math today, we are on lesson 8. So for your math time, you're going to spend at least 30 minutes working on this, this worksheet, okay? So on this, number 1 says, are the shapes divided into halves? Write yes or no. So up here in number 1, you have 6 different shapes, and you see dotted lines going through the shapes. It's kind of cutting the shape. So remember, a half, if it's divided into halves, that means it has to have 2 equal parts. So, for example, let's do this one together, letter A. Are the parts equal? So this line cuts through the square, and you need to think, is this equal? As if this was a piece of cake, and I gave you this piece right here, and I kept this piece for myself, would you be happy? Probably not, because they are not equal. So this side is smaller than this side. So they are not cut in, it's not divided in half. Okay, so for letter A, you would write no. And you're going to do the same thing for the rest of them. For number 2, it says, are the shapes divided into quarters? Right? Yes or no. So you're going to do the same thing for number 2, except it's asking if they're divided into quarters. So that means instead of 2 equal parts, it has to have 4 equal parts. So if you see a shape with 6 parts, that's not divided into quarters. Okay? And remember, the quarters have to be the same size. Okay. Number 3 says color half of each shape. So on number 3, you're not going to color the whole shape, you're just going to color 1/2 of each shape. So for letter A, if you're coloring half of this shape, I would just color one side, okay, one of the pieces, because that's half of the shape. For number 4, you're going to color 1/4 of the shape. Okay, so you're just going to color one piece out of the 4 pieces. Just one you're coloring. So for letter A, I'm not going to color all of them. I'm just going to color one piece of these 4 pieces. That means 1/4. So I would just color this little part right there. Okay? So that is your problem set for math today. For writing, you guys are going to finish the writing that you started yesterday, and that was, if I could change one thing about the world, I would change, so you have to think about what would you change about the world. So you should have wrote that yesterday. But today I want you to read back over your writing. Make sure your writing makes sense. A good reader can read their own writing. So I want you to go back and make sure you can read all of your words. Make sure you have capital letters when they're supposed to be capital and lowercase letters when they're supposed to be lowercase. Make sure you have periods at the end of your sentences. Make sure you stretch out your words as best you can, okay? You guys are great little writers, so use your skills and show what you know when you're working at home, okay? And then, after you finish all of that work, if you still have some time, you can work on iReady. You have reading and math assignments on there. I know some of you are not able to get on iReady. It either doesn't work with your tablet at home, or you don't have internet or devices at home that you can work on, so that is totally okay. If you cannot get on iReady, you can work on your Lesson 8 homework for the math, okay? So your homework says, circle the correct words to tell how each shape is divided, okay? So you need to think of the vocabulary that we talked about in math. So letter A says, is it divided into equal parts or unequal parts? So remember, equal parts means that they're the same. Equal means the same. We learned that when we were in school. Even though we didn't talk about equal with shapes, in number sentences, it still means the same. So you're going to think, are all of these parts in this circle equal? If they are equal, then you would say equal parts. They're not equal or not the same, then you would say unequal parts. Okay? This one says, letter B says equal parts and unequal parts also. C says halves or fourths. Okay, so remember, halves is 2 parts that are the same, and fourths are 4 parts that are the same. D is halves and quarters. So halves is 2 parts that are the same, and quarters are 4 parts that are the same, okay, just like fourths. Then we have halves and quarters for letter E, fourths and halves for letter F, quarters and halves for letter G, and letter H is halves and fourths. Okay, one more page for your homework. So remember, you're only doing this if you cannot get on iReady or Lexia, okay? Or if you just want to do more math. Number 2 says, what part of this shape is shaded? Circle the correct answer. So you can either circle 1/2 or 1/4 for letter A. So think, is half of this rectangle shaded or only 1/4 of this rectangle shaded? So think about, what does 1/2 mean? What does 1/4 mean? Same with letter D, 1/2 or 1/4. C and D are the same, 1/2 or 1/4. Number 3 says, color 1/4 of each shape. So you have 2 shapes down here. You're going to color 1/4 of those shapes. Number 4 says, color 1/2 of each shape. So don't let this trick you. Even though there's 4 parts, we know that halves means that there's 2 equal parts. So even though there's 4 equal parts in this shape, you want to color it so that half of this diamond is, or that half of this shape is colored, okay? Okay, you guys will do a great job. Make sure you work your hardest, and we're so proud of you guys. Good job. Have a great day.